making better decisions in a complex world. I mean, how could you have come up with a more timely issue than that? The complex world. Let's take maybe one day out of the complex world, today. So today, the Greeks will vote whether they entrust their destiny to a harsh European administration or whether they will give it to some new populist radical movement. The French today will decide on whether they invest practically unlimited power into a new president, unlike any other president in the Fifth Republic of France, and what he will do with it, particularly to the German-French alliance that was the construction motor of Europe. And if that's not exciting enough, no, Egyptians who have revolted for democratic rights have been stolen those, because now they can vote between an autocrat of the old regime and a theocrat of a new Islamic regime. So, this is only today. If we take a little bit a longer view, I think that our generation and the one certainly of our kids will live through a page turned in the history book of human mankind. This is one of these rare moments when a new chapter is being opened. Thinking a little bit back, when we were in the society of the gatherers and the hunters, it was the muscular supremacy that would be rewarded richly. It was followed by the agrarian society, where wars were fought over land possession, and the wealth would go to the landowner and the kings. A little bit closer to us, in the industrial age, the wars were fought for colonial possessions and the exploitation of raw materials. The, how do you call it, the vapor machine, no, the steam machine was invented, and all the welfare went first to capital, and then increasingly to labor, specifically also qualified, gainfully employed labor. So what is happening now is that we increasingly discover a new production factor, which is very elegant, very clean, and can be ad infinitum multiplied, and that is human knowledge. And that human knowledge is actually competing with all the other production factors that we had before. It is going to drive out capital, raw material, labor, whatever, and it will create an entirely new world. So that is all obviously, but then Irene made it very difficult for me, because she said, I have a framework. So why don't you familiarize yourself with it and you apply it? All right, so in terror, I tried my best, and please be merciful with the novice of this art, but I learned that the world can be seen through different perspectives. So there is a simple world and a complicated world, which tends to the talents of the expert and the analysis. But then there is also a world that is complex or even chaotic, and this tailors more to the quality of the explorer and the creativity he is invested with. Okay, as a German, it's over. Okay, so anyway, let me go to the first quadrant, which the Germans have an affinity to, which is the simple world. Because the idea is you just live within your means. You apply Calvinistic work ethics, you invent, you perfect products, and then you export them into the world. God forbid that then to invest, certainly not to consume. The iconic representative of this, this could by the way also be a Dutch description, would be the small to medium entrepreneur, what we call the hidden champion. And life would be wonderful if that was the end of the story. But no, there's another quadrant which complicates things. And this other quadrant, so these are all these people who have enjoyed in the after-war period exploding welfare, reconstruction, demography, whatever. And then that started to flatten, but they still wanted to have further growth in their livelihoods. And they found then a nice way in democracies to bribe politicians to offer them forever nicer living standards. And these politicians were then quickly aligned with financial markets, who had figured out that this is good for the bonus if one finds intelligent ways to increase the debt capacity. Remember Goldman Sachs and the Greek government? That must have been a very profitable country. So, and if that wasn't enough, so the collusion between the voter, the politician, and the financial markets, the engineers in the Politburo in China were thinking, how are we going to manage the biggest urbanization of human history, which is redeploying unemployed agricultural workers, because they also have mechanization of agriculture, into industrial labor. The only way is we sell to the Western consumer like there's no tomorrow, and we even fund it. So this is the Chinese vendor funding. One of the poorest countries in the world funds one of the richest countries in the world, which is the US and Europe. Okay, so that's not that simple, this is complicated. Whatever happens, maybe we owe it to the Greeks, whereas first we owed it to the Americans during the subprime crisis, but now the Greeks brought it to the forefront. The financial markets have lost trust that this bonanza can continue. So that grounded to a stop. So this is all, this quadrants, this is a difficult quadrant at the moment. There's another quadrant, if you move to the other side, the one that you're putting forward in your book as quadrants of hope. So in the complex world, actually, it's totally apart. You have an unbelievable talent across the globe developing, researching and developing knowledge. It is accelerating. You have to imagine that every 5 years we are doubling the knowledge of all mankind before. And we are only starting, and it goes faster and faster and faster. Take two examples. Quantum computing, or the GNOME project, is driving the information technology and the biotechnology revolution, and it will affect us all in all aspects of your lives, and you haven't even discovered what it will do. Now, the nice thing about it is, it has the potential to resolve the curses of mankind. So, we could resolve hunger, sickness, ignorance, boredom, you add to it. Basically, we have an exploding solution stack that's looking for the problems. So we are in that very promising, complex quadrant. So that would all be nice if this all fits together and we have a wonderful soft landing into the next chapter. It doesn't really look like it, because we have the chaos quadrant. So in this chaos quadrant, we witness that the incentives of these different worlds are different, and very dramatically, the timing is different. So in the chaos quadrant, you have financial markets, disinherited people in the streets, and populist preachers that all scream out for the fast fix. Because, like drug addicts, they are suffering from the detoxification pain. Then you have technocrats across the globe, highly competent, smart people in central banks, in ministries, in governments, who now take days or weeks to develop new institutions, new processes, new models that weren't thinkable a month ago. That's happened at the moment in Brussels. And then you have the problem of our democracies, where politicians, and you know politicians, they are the few statesmen and stateswomen. And then there are lots of overwhelmed normal people who need all your book. And they need months, quarters, years to move the changes that are required through the democratic process. Let's come to a conclusion. I must be an optimist because my wife and me have 5 children. They, you have to make decisions. You have to take sides going forward. You could stay within what I call the illusion square in the Pinot Grigio quarters. You could also take refuge at home and close the hatches. Or you could discover the love in your heart that drives the trust in life and that then feeds the courage. And this is what your book does. It is a book that says, let me help you, let me encourage you. If you find that strength, and if your children find that strength, then you can contribute to science, to exploration, to innovation, to humanity. Then you will not be the victim or the spectator. No, you will actually not suffer the change. You will create the change. I wish us all good luck with it. Congratulations. She had the courage to put it not on a white paper but into a laptop, I assume. This is very courageous. I told you in the first minute. Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Jost.